So for some of you, the new FDA rules may not feel like much has changed. But what you don't know is that the scariest part is still ahead. Now that the FDA has seized power and control of the vaping industry, they can make any new restrictions and bans that they want. After all, the FDA now calls you a smoker. They can do whatever the hell they want with you now. Haven't you noticed much for change? Are your local vape shops still in business? Yes? But I wonder how much longer. You may not think that vaping has changed. You may think they won't make it worse. You may think we keep on vaping. Wake up! So you think you're safe? No more new regulations ahead? Think it can't happen here? Well, let me tell you a little about an area that thought the same thing as you. In Canada, just above your borders, a regulatory monster 10 times worse has been feeding on the vapors the same way the FDA will destroy all vaping across the globe until they can create enough to fund themselves again with smokers. You demos should be afraid. You should be shaking in your boots. I'm going to tell you about the story of what happened here in Canada when Bill 44 took hold and sentenced almost every vapor in Quebec to a smoking death sentence. Don't think it can happen where you are? Think again. Keep watching him. Sorry, gotta go. Wife is calling me. It's spaghetti night!
Okay, I admit that was a little over the top. But the truth is, it seems like there's new regulations coming out every week, whether it's in Europe, in Canada, in the US. It seems like it never stops. Now, the big problem is, it's not really so much the regulations themselves. I mean, they're bad, and we know they're bad. But when we get word of it, we expect doom and gloom. So we get ready for the fight and we get announcements and start reading, and it's either banned or, for instance, with the FDA, you have all these regulations that just make absolutely no friggin' sense whatsoever. They put us in a tobacco category. They've done the same thing in Canada. Canada follows suit with the FDA. In Ontario, they've tried placing it. PEI. In BC, we are now a tobacco product. Thank you, FDA. Health Canada pushed. The government pushed. Pharma, big pharma, they pushed. And now we're tobacco. So guess what? They can regulate us. So in Canada, here in BC, on September 1st, the regulations took effect. A lot of the vapors online, they're going, won't happen, no big deal, no changes. The shops were kind of freaking out a little bit, like wondering what to do to get ready. I know some of the local shops here spent a fortune just putting in new air systems, blacking out windows, moving all the displays around, trying to figure out exactly what they're supposed to do for the regulations and the new limitations. Now, in BC, we're kind of lucky. Thanks to the NDP, that's the New Democratic Party. In Canada, we have about 38 different political parties. The main ones are the Liberals and Conservatives, the NDP, and the Green Party. While the Liberals and the Conservatives fought to have this legislation called Bill 14 put into effect. Now, Bill 14 basically follows a lot of the same rules that the FDA put forward. A few variations. Thanks to the NDP, they actually fought when they realized something didn't quite seem right. So they actually fought and got a few amendments which they tried passing. Now, they didn't have the numbers to pass, but because they were on records, it put a bit of pressure. So one of the things that was planned was we're going to lose all testing. No more free samples or testings in the store. Thanks to the NDP, they put forward some amendments, and they explained it very well, saying like the people coming into the shop, it's not like they aren't aware of the vapor or anything else in there. Liberals and conservatives, Big Pharma said we want vaping shut down, so they said, well, we have no clue what's in this, and because it's a workplace, nobody should have to be put into that kind of circumstance where they don't know what they're walking into. The NDP said the people going in there are either one, vapers who know that there's going to be vape and vapor around, or two, smokers who are thinking, okay, I've heard a lot about it, maybe I should consider something that's not going to be as harmful as cigarettes. And so the smokers are used to smoke, and they're looking for something that's not as harmful, and so they go into a vape shop. They expect to be able to try it, see if, it matches the kind of expectations that they have, see if it might be something they can try. Thanks to the NP being on record and the pressure that they put on, we don't have full testing the way it used to be, where you can have, because stores get filled and the vape shops are there for nothing but vapors and smokers looking to switch. It's not for kids, not for anything else. So they usually have big crowds in there wanting to try out all the new samples and all the new flavors and find out which ones they liked and which ones they're going to buy. Well, now only 2 people are allowed to test any samples at once. But at least they can test them, unlike the States, where they can't even do free samples, they can't do testing or anything. So that is a bit of a plus. It makes it awkward, but it's still doable. Another issue is, again, they not being able to demonstrate. They can't show you how to fill it, how to change your coils. If you're into a dripper type, they can't show you how to build your coils. They can't check any of your equipment for you. All they can do is press button, nothing else. Now, nobody else in the shop is allowed to vape. Not the employees, not even the owners. And as the NDP said, but these people are most likely vapers. They use the product. Not allowed, so be it. Now, in the States, it's so convoluted what the FDA has put together. There's been 500 pages. I've gone through it, and they've purposely made it very, very difficult to read. A lot is blocked there now. But the thing is, for them, August 8th came by. Vapors are going, we're still here. Okay, we worked for nothing. Wrong. The shops are going nuts just trying to meet the requirements. And they don't even know what the requirements are because the FDA hasn't got a friggin' clue what their own regulations are. They're kind of making it up on the spot. They say, well, we have to take control to properly manage all the operations for these vape shops. And then they go to the vape shops. We'd like to visit some of your plants and the e-juice manufacturers so that we can find out what the processes are. So they don't know what the processes are, but they're the ones in charge of dictating what the process should be. And of course, they made a tobacco product as well. So that is supposedly a tobacco product. And by the way, my personal preference is no nick. I was a heavy smoker, but I just like the taste of no nick, and that's what I like. That's still considered a tobacco product, even in Canada. So here's what the whole thing about it can't happen here is. The vapers, and even the shops who don't follow advocacy very much, they're waiting for the sky to fall. Big day comes, regulations take effect, and I can still vape, no problem. What they don't realize is a lot of these laws are set up, well, in the FDA is set up for a process. Multiple years, they get worse and worse and worse until they can eliminate the industry to protect Big Pharma. In Canada, the laws are in place. But what they haven't told you is if you look very closely at the regulations, and this applies to the FDA. On the FDA, it's on page 8 and 9 of the deeming regulations. But in Canada, for Bill 14 and in BC, Ontario have their own bill, which they're battling now because they made a mess of things there. Quebec, like I said in the opening, is you don't want to ever face what they're going through. Now, I know Australia would be glad to face anything that would allow them to have nicotine, e-juices, and e-liquids again. And hopefully things will start crossing worldwide. What we need are precedents. We need precedents of, like the UK has done, where they did a complete turn and realized after their own test, because they didn't have their healthcare systems and their cancer societies and so on, they weren't being funded by big pharma or tobacco funding or the government funding in the same way. And so when they did the test, they realized cost effectiveness was huge. And they realized the health improvements for smokers was absolutely incredible. And just the healthcare savings was going to, it was a no-brainer. They push for it now. The Royal College of Physicians, they did some testing and they're saying, yeah, it's at least 95% safer. And they gave it the 5% because they haven't found anything dangerous about it, but they want to at least give themselves that leeway for long term, and they don't expect it to ever exceed 5%. So they've given that high figure to even there. But even now, they say it's at least 95% safer. So yeah, change. So getting back to the point of it can't happen here, FDA, page 8 and 9. In BC, the regulations are set, and you can check Ontario too. Vapers and a lot of the shops, like I said, who don't follow the advocacy, don't realize this is just the start of the regulations. Now that these are classified as tobacco, you're damn right they're going to be going after tax. They're going to want to do tobacco tax rates or higher. As a matter of fact, Pennsylvania put a floor tax of 40%, not on all the future product, but on anything that's in stock at the moment. That went to effect. It wiped out, well, already. What are we? We're September 7th now. September 1st went into effect. And at last count, I think it was something like 80 out of 300 shops have already had to close down. You can't stay in business when you have a 40% tax immediately on current stock that was never planned on, when your markup isn't even going to be that much. So the state figures they're going to get all this great tax money in to fund their schools, fund all these projects, fund everything because they aren't getting their tobacco money. And instead, they've wiped out almost a third, well, actually over a third of the businesses already in a week, because the stores can't stay in business. So what happens? People are going to go back to smoking. Go to Indiana. Their asinine mayors and people put together a law, a monopoly, where their buddies from one security company was the only security company who could authorize security systems for any e-liquid manufacturers there. If it wasn't for GoodCAD having the sense to really spend they spent a good year, brought in some good lawyers, and they prepared for this. The security company that the Indiana insisted is the only one capable of safely handling e-liquids, even though they have nothing to do with e-liquids, never have. They require roll-up doors, which somehow is supposed to protect the e-liquids. Some of these juice manufacturers have more security than that security company wants to put in. Yet the city said, nope, if they aren't your security company, you are not allowed to sell. Well, Good Cat, luckily, they fought it, and they had way more in place, and they knew what they were doing. They fought, and they've got a temporary injunction. Now, that doesn't mean that, great, all the other shops are back in business. Because at one point, they only had about 5 or 6 shops, or like 5 or 6 different juice manufacturers that you could sell. And you can't stay in business with that small variety, especially vape shops might go through 100, 200 different flavors. Every vape shop has their favorites. They know their customers. They know the flavor profiles. In Canada, sweet juices are really preferred. Even in the candies and the fruit flavors, there's a big demand for the fruit flavors that are very, very sweet. In the U.S., apparently, according to Dimitru, and he went to Toronto, and Phil Basardo, they were surprised at how sweet all the Canadian juices are. So in the States, they like them just cut back a little bit. So everybody has their own preferences. You know your market, you know your area, and you try and cater to them. So if everybody is only allowed to sell the same 6 juices, you really can't compete or stay in business. So Good Cat luckily fought the battle and got through. That does not mean it's done for everybody else. Any other manufacturer wants to get in there, is going to have to figure out now how to sue and follow suit. And if they haven't done all the preparation that Good Cat did, they're going to be out of luck. So Indiana, if it wasn't for Good Cat, you'd have like 6 brands to choose from, and that's it. And then you throw the FDA regulations on top of that, you have no more new gear coming out and no more new flavors. So whatever was available, that would have been it. Thanks to Good Cat, you're going to have something, but it's still not right. Governments are jumping in and blocking it. California raised the age to 21 for vaping. Smoking, no problem. You can keep smoking. You can go enlist in the army. You can go get killed in the army. You can serve for your country and all that, and no problem. But even though you're going into the army, you're not necessarily old enough to vape. It doesn't make sense. They're cutting out. They're trying to force it where anyone who's a smoker, who's under 21, can't even vape to switch to get off the coffin nails. And St. Louis just did the same thing. 21 years old to vape. So, yeah. Enlist in the army, go serve your country, possibly get killed. You're old enough for that. But you're not old enough to vape unless you're 21 or older. So, whether you're using something like a 2nd generation device, and yes, I still use mine. It's when I'm out in public, it's unobtrusive and people don't seem to mind. Or you can go to a 2nd generation device, a little fancier, or you can go to 4th generation. Actually, sorry, that was the 3rd generation, 4th generation. You get the 5th generations out, and no problem. But with the FDA regulations, and if shops in BC can't stay in business, if Ontario can't get their mess cleaned up, and again, Quebec, it's really, really hard on Quebec, and I'll get to that in a second. But as I mentioned in another video, this is an e-cig. This is a vaping device. This is an e-cig. And this is basically what the FDA, BC, everyone wants everyone to go to. Get them at your gas stations, your convenience stores. If they can wipe out the vape shops, the Big Pharma will be very happy, because this is killing. Well, that helps a few people. That helps convert a lot of smokers to vapors, where they can get off it, get their health back. But again, even an e-cig, some people, it's good enough for them. Myself, it's just, it doesn't do it for me. Once you've had e-liquids, it just doesn't do it. But for some people, it's fine. But soon, that might be all that's available. Now, the thing is, I'm going to make this one a short one. I'm going to finish off with a little bit about Quebec. Their regulation that came through and got passed is worse than the FDA, worse than Bill 14 in BC, worse than Ontario's bill. Not quite as bad as some of the Australian areas where no vaping, but the shops are not allowed to display any pricing, not allowed to have anything seen from outside, no posters allowed. You are allowed, if you want to put prices up, you have a 2-foot by 2-foot square area. All your merchandise must be listed and priced on there. You may not use any descriptions. You can't even have a vaping magazine in the shop. You can't have anything pointing to an advocacy group. You can't have any videos or posters or products on display or talking about how to use it. You can't tell people any of the chances of improving the health or the harm reduction. As a matter of fact, if they pointed on their website or their Facebook page to this video, it could be a $5,000 fine, escalating for repeated offenses over $1 million, just for giving a link to anything that is pro-vaping active. Here's where it gets worse. Their websites, if you buy anything online, whether it's from your local brick and mortar or whether it's from an online vape shop, you don't want to end up the way that Quebec is. Here are their websites now. Okay, for those who don't know, the WAYBACK machine basically takes a snapshot of all the various websites online throughout different periods of time since they've been running. The reason we kind of have to use that is, well, here's an example. The product I was talking about just a little bit ago, VAPUR. Very pretty site. As you can see, product information, testimonials, contacts, English, French versions. Not my kind of product, but a very pretty site. Now, ever since Bill 44 in Quebec, their Facebook is completely gone. Not allowed to have one. Their website, how it actually looks now, that is their total website. That's all they're allowed to put in, just contact information and a notice that they are not allowed to do any advertising or mention their products. All they can have is their name. And here's the WAYBACK page. As you can see, nothing. We'll go to another company back in February of 2014. VapoClub, another company in Quebec. So as you can see, very detailed site, very pretty site. E-commerce, they sell online. So you've got your products and so forth. That's how it used to look. Bill 44 came out. Here's how it looks now. Oh, not too bad, you say. That's it. That's the entire site right there. There is nothing else. They have their contact information and they have, because of the law number 44, Bill 44, we have to obey it, and they can't display anything. They can't even tell you that what vape products they sell. They can't discuss vaping. All they can do is give you their contact information. Go to the next one. Here is a e-vape or e-vap. It's a chain of lounges, vape lounges. So they had all their information, as you can see. They even had a blog and so forth. And it was basically advertising a franchise. You go to it now, and almost looks the same, except, again, all the information is gone, all the checking of ages is gone. Here, once again, because of Bill 44, they can't operate their business anymore. Here is their only contact information if you want to get a hold of them, and their hours. If you notice, they aren't allowed to advertise their products. We'll do a couple of quick more. Here's a site. As you can see, the WAYBACK machine can't even pick up the images or the background information, but you can see that they had a site. Granted, it's in French, so I know a lot of you won't understand the French, but it is a full e-commerce site. They have the e-cigs right here. They've got the batteries, the atomizers, the tanks, e-liquids, everything. So they at least had a site. There's the site now. This is now that. They're gone. I mean, there's no more business. You can't operate. Another WAYBACK machine site. Now, again, we don't have the CSS. We don't have all the templates, but you can see they had an e-commerce system. They had the photos. Here were the shots of their photos. This is illegal in Quebec now. You cannot put this picture on a website. It's considered promotion. So their website now, that's it. That's the entire website. It's welcome, and the only thing they're allowed to say is that our shop has articles for vaping. You're allowed your company name and articles for vaping. That's it. The rest is, once again, their contact information, and because of the Bill 44, the law, they cannot advertise anymore. If you go to their Facebook page, now at least they kept their Facebook page. But when you go through it, if you notice, all it is about holiday hours, business hours, nothing else. Back in December, before all this happened, they could advertise at least an advocacy group. Now, no more. If they put that post up now, they'd be looking at a $5,000 fine. Starting for repeat offense, it goes millions of dollars. So all the companies there are allowed to do is put in the company name, their contact, business hours, and that's pretty much it. They cannot even discuss vaping. They can't point to a link about vaping. Go to another one. They're selling vape. Pretty little site, not too fancy, but e-commerce site. Again, they have the changing images. Here's how it looks now. That is the entire site. There is no more. You can click on here. It's not going to go anywhere. There is absolutely nothing. They can't mention anything they do. All they say is that they specialize in articles for vaping. That's it. We'll do one more quick one. Here again, even the WAYBACK machine couldn't pull in the images, but there's QuebecVape.com. It was an e-commerce system. They even had an English one, although even the WAYBACK machine can't reach the English version. But had all the stuff in it, had your hangers and so on, and all the images. It was an e-commerce site. The total site now is that. That is the whole website. If you click on their Quebec Vape Boutique, which is the chain, if you notice, you get the laboratory and locations And that's it. And that is for the testing lab. That is all they're allowed to put on. Think of what would happen if that happened to you in the States or elsewhere in Canada. You would go ballistic. The companies cannot survive. And that's the whole reason why you damn well should be worried. Now, it's ridiculous. A store is not even allowed to tell people what products they have. They aren't allowed to go online and show people what a product is. They can get a $5,000 fine if they pointed a link on their Facebook page or had a link to this video on their website. They get a $5,000 fine the first time. It escalates. It can reach over $1 million per offense. They can't even tell people. They can't point to an advocacy group. They can't tell people anything about related to harm reduction. Anything pro-vaping, they can be fined for. They are not allowed to tell anybody anything. Their advertising space, 2 feet by 2 feet. That is strictly for a list of their products and prices. No pictures or anything else, just a list. You don't think it'll happen where you are? It happened there. Nobody expected it. FDA, page 8-9. Read it. They give themselves sole authority to make any changes they want as they deem are necessary to do whatever they want. Your state level, your local political areas, they want more money? Hey, it's the same as smoking now. Smoking rate, taxes. It's not smoking. Taxes are because they cost a fortune in healthcare. But guess what? They can do it. In BC, they can do it. Pennsylvania and the states, they already have. BC, they can do it. Ontario, they'll be able to do it. Quebec, they can do it. It can't happen here. No longer exists. And that's the whole point tonight, is just basically to remind you that if you think this is all there are to the regulations and that we've all survived them and it's business as usual, granted a few changes here and there, but overall business as usual, you really need to wake up. Now that we're being classified as tobacco, they can do whatever the hell they want to us to wipe us out. And Big Pharma is smiling. Anyhow, we're just getting started with these series of broadcasts and videos, and I hope you'll stay tuned for more and hit that follow button, check the website, follow the Facebook group. I'm glad to have you there. We try and cover as much as we can. We hope to see you again next time. Have a great night.